And thank you for letting me be a author in your book. And it's, as Emmy said, it's wonderful to see so much of contribution that the New School of Psychotherapy and Counselling has made to this book through all of the research. And yeah, and seeing all of our graduates and students and staff members here today contributing to the book. So and congratulations. Absolutely, you did the book in record time. I have to say, some of the books that Emmy and I have worked on together have taken a lot longer. So, yeah, well done for putting all of this together so quickly. So, my chapter was about birth trauma and existential crisis, and this is very much around an area that I've also written about, research, and a lot of the work that I do now are with mothers who have suffered a birth trauma. Um, and I think one of the things about birth trauma is that it's not universally seen as most people think about giving birth as something that's joyful and welcomed and a loving experience. And there are a significant number of women who have, really difficult and often traumatic births. And I guess there's something about the experience of birth which is which brings both birth and death together in that moment, that kind of sort of leads to, an experience of birth trauma. So the research that I did wasn't looking specifically at birth trauma, but I think that a lot of what I've subsequently built on from my research is around how the experience of becoming a mother in particular, for the first time, it creates an existential crisis. And so a lot of the analysis that I did demonstrated how pretty much on every single dimension of their existence, from the personal and the physical, spiritual, social dimensions, the mother experiences a change. So there's something around, her physical body changes. She has this experience of being connected to a sort of a life and death situation. And then, in terms of social roles, that those change. She takes on a new role in society. Her relationships change, both with her, her family and her friends, and personally, her identity changes, and then spiritually, her sense of motivation change, her sense of purpose change. And so there's something about that kind of existential crisis on top of what could be a traumatic birth that really does lead to this kind of idea of an existential shattering, and that Hoffman talks about in his work. Um, and and I think there's the thing that's really interesting, I think, around birth trauma, is that we can't always tell from the type of birth that somebody has whether it's going to be traumatic or not. And I think this is something around trauma that is about, well, how each individual makes sense of their experience. So you might have two women who have similar types of birth, and one of those women will experience it as traumatic and the other one won't. So I think that really highlights for me that kind of important element of trauma, is that we can't tell from the outside as an outside person how a person experiences trauma. It's very individualized. Um, and so yeah, so I think that's, it's kind of really important. And also another element is that, and again, I can't remember, this was actually a figure that was used at a conference that I went to on birth trauma several years ago. But apparently there are more traumatized women with suffering from PTSD than there are veterans coming back from war. So I think, that's important to also think about the impact that birth trauma can have on women. So I'll probably just leave it there, because I also want you to read the chapter and the book. So I don't want to tell you everything about what I've said. So I don't know, maybe if people have got more questions, then yeah, I'd love to kind of answer those later.